Hi guys, so this tutorial is about building a responsive web page, something which you see on your screen right now. This has been developed for kind of an animal charity, and year 7 is actually working on this, raising funds for this animal charity this week, so that's why I just chose this topic. And although it looks like a very simple web page, the only special thing about this web page is that it is responsive. So if I try and just resize the browser window, you will see that the image will go below the text, the heading and the paragraph here, and these boxes here are also going to get stacked the moment I resize the browser window here. So this is how it appears now if you see. So this is a responsive web page that we've been able to achieve using Flex, okay, in CSS. So I'm going to just quickly, you know, get you started on how do you basically achieve this. So in this, what I have basically done is that in the main container, I have taken 3 different containers out here. The one that you see on top in the purple is called the navigation bar. So I have used a nav tag in CSS to achieve this, and the display is flex and in a row format. That's why you're able to see this logo as well as these items in a kind of a row structure. And then the one in purple out here, which contains just a heading and a paragraph and an image, again that's a row, and I have called this as a header in my coding. So this is also a flex container with a row layout. And once again, I have this different container, which is another section out here, which contains 3 boxes in purple, and they are also just aligned in a row format. So 3 different containers that I have used, and then I've done some little styling to achieve this. And for making it a responsive website, I've used something called a media query, which I will take you through in this tutorial. So I have a blank HTML file here, and first of all I will work on the HTML part, which is the body part of it, and then of course I will go to the styling part. So let me just call it responsive web design as the title, and after the title I will have some styling, not right now, but first I will work on the structure of my web page. So if you look at this, the first thing that I'm going to work at is the purple navigation bar. So as I was saying, I have used a nav tag out here, and the class I'm just going to name it as the nav bar because it's my navigation bar. And inside my navigation bar I am also going to have a container because I want to style that differently with a sort of a background color and other things in it. So that's my container, and inside my container, if you see, inside my container I have a logo out here, which could be an image also, or I've just taken a text as the logo. And then there are 3 items out here which I will style using the unordered list in HTML. So inside my container, as I was saying, I have something called a logo. So I'm going to call it logo as my class, okay. And okay, let me just see what it is, or let me just copy it from here since it's not an English name, but just try and copy the text from here and get it here, okay, to get it right. Yeah, so that's the logo out here, right? And then I have something called unordered list items. So for that I'm just saying ul class equals to, maybe call it nav or anything. So in my unordered list items, what I basically have, if you see my web page, I have 3 links. Okay, they don't lead to anywhere because I don't have any other different page for home, about, or contact right now, but these are list items and they are links actually. Okay, so for my links I actually use an anchor tag, as you know. So my first list item is basically an anchor tag or a link point to anywhere, so just a hash here, okay. It's called home, the first one, right? And here, that's my first li list item, okay. The second li that I have, I'll just copy it from here just to make it easier and faster. So my second li is called about, right? And my third li, or the list item here, is called contact us, right? So these are my three list items, and div is, yeah, I think I've closed all the divs, I guess. Yes, and the nav bar is also closed. So this is about my navigation bar. If I just save this and show you what appears on my page right now, it's just this, the logo, and of course the list items here, because without the styling this is how it is going to appear. Okay, now moving on, in my after my navigation bar I have my header. This one is my header basically, which nothing, it's just, it's h1 and paragraph and an image, so three items are here. So what I'm going to do after my navigation bar is done, I am going to call it as the header. Okay, so this is my header, and I'm going to use header tag for it so that I can style it later as a header class. Okay, so I have my header here, and inside my header also similarly I have a container. Okay, and the container is going to contain those um, paragraph and paragraph and h1 and the image, right? Now inside my container, the first thing that I have as a div tag is nothing but an h1. Okay, I'll just copy the text from the website itself to make it faster. So this is my h1 section here, right? And just below the h1 I have something called a p, which is just a paragraph about the animal shelter. So this is what is my p, so I'm going to copy it and just paste it here, right? So these are the two items as one div. Okay, and then I have something called an image here. So inside my same div I am going to have an image which is imgsrc, and let me copy the same link what I have here of the same image. So I'm just going to copy image link, and in the image source I'm going to paste it. So I have an image, I have a h1 and p, but of course I'll be able to style it using the flex later on in the style tags. Okay, so that's my header, which is done. I hope I've closed all the divs, two divs and two header is done. Okay, so after the header, let me also just see how it appears right now. So this is the one that I'm building. So if I just refresh it, I've got my h1, I've got my paragraph and the image which needs to be styled later on. Okay, now if I go to my web page which is done, and the one that I'm aiming at, after the header I have another section with some boxes here. Okay, so now I'm going to write the structure for that. So here I'm going to use something called a section and call it boxes, because it has some boxes. Okay, and similarly I do have a div which is a main container which will contain those boxes. Okay, so here you go, container is here, and inside it I basically have three boxes. So first box is this one. Okay, and this is basically having h2, and let me copy the text from here. So h2 is volunteer programs. Okay, and that's my h2, and then I have a paragraph with an h2, and this is the one. So volunteers are responsible not only for walks and all of that, so I'm just gonna copy it here. So I've got an h2 and a p, and this is my first box. Okay, and similarly I'm just gonna copy this part here because my second box is also going to be here, right? And I'll just copy the heading 2 for my second box and paste it here, and for my p I will copy the paragraph for the second box here. Sorry, yeah, this one, and just copy it here. And then my third box is here after this as a third division, and this is my third box, socializing animals instead of community outreach. And then the paragraph is here, which is transport to outside medical and all of that. right? So I have this, and three of my basic main containers are done. As you can see, the first one I call it as the navigation bar with a container, has a logo and has three links using the anchor tags. And the second one is the header, which has a heading, paragraph and image. And the third one is the boxes, another section called boxes, which has a container and has three boxes as DIBs here. So mm, let me just save this and go here and see whether I have all the text or not. Okay, so I do have all of the text here the way I wanted. The logo and everything is here, but of course not styled in the way I want. So I'm now going to work on the styling of these pages. Okay, so I go up and inside my style sections. Now the first thing that you always do whenever you are styling a web page as a responsive web page is that you set the box sizing property. Now that's a very important property because that means that inside basically a responsive web page, the actual width and height of a particular element is going to account for the padding. Okay, padding is basically the distance between the text and the border, so we want that to be included in the actual width and height of your elements. Okay, so that is why you always say something like star. Okay, and you set the box sizing property, and this is going to remain static, like I mean, which is sort of a mandate. Okay, so I'm going to set that as a border box, which means padding is going to be accounted for. I don't want any margins as such, top and bottom here, and later if I want I will change this property as well. Okay, and right now the padding is 0, top and bottom and left and right. So I will actually change the margin and padding later on in the containers, not right now. So this is done. Okay, and then for the entire body section of my HTML page, I am going to just set the font family as something. You can set it as any font, or you can have other fonts from different websites also if you don't want to use the ones which are here. Font size, I don't want to keep them too big, but maybe 16 pixel is the right size. There's another pop property in body which is called the line height, which means which is basically used to include spacing. Like if you don't want the content to be placed very close to each other, you want a particular height for a particular, for every line, actually line of text, so it's going to have a line height. Okay, color of the text, I can keep it as right now this, which is kind of a gray color for the headings and the text. And the background color of my body, the one that I've used in my website, is like a light purple color, and the hash value for this, or the hex value for this, is this. And you can use any one. Just look online for the hex colors and you will get a particular color. Okay, so for my body, okay, I made some mistake, I guess. Background color, yeah, here, right? So this is for my body, right? Now if I go here, let me save this first of all and see if these changes are being applied or not. So I've got the color of the text, as I said, gray. The font family is set. Background color is set. This is what I've done so far. Okay. Now this image, I want to make it as a fluid image, which means when I resize the browser window, it should not really, change its size or something, and it should be a fully responsive image. So what we do here is, for the IMG, we just use one property for the fluidity of images, and that's called max width as 100%, which means whatever is the width is going to be the same. Okay, so images max width is going to be 100%. Okay, and now for my H1 and H2s, which I have in my web page, I want some spacing, which means below the H1 and H2, whatever is the paragraph, I want some spacing to be there. So that's why for H1 and H2, I am saying my bottom margin should be something. Okay, because right now it was looking too tight on my web page and there was no space as such. So for my H1 and H2, I've included this. If I go here and try and refresh it, you will be able to see those changes appearing. Okay, so if you see, the margins have come in here. Okay, bottom margins that I used, right? below my h1 and h2 for my spacing part. Okay, now if you see here, what's happening out here is that the entire container, which is the body container, I want to set some styling out here also, because right now it's really looking too close to my screen or the browser width basically. So for the entire container, what I'm going to do now, when I say dot container, which means all the containers which are there in all the sections. Okay, so I'm talking about this container also, which is the part of nav bar, or which is a part of header, or which is a part of boxes. So all the containers are going to get affected by what I write here. Okay, so this is like a universal container I'm talking about. So let's say I want the maximum width of my actual big container to be, let's say, 1100 pixels. Okay, margin top and bottom, I don't really need anything, so 0. But for left and right, I think it should be an automatic margin, so that's why auto. Padding also, which is a distance between the text and the border, I don't want anything from top bottom, but left and right would be good to have, so let's say 30 pixel, or you can actually change these values if they don't really appeal to you too much. So save it and then see here, so I'll be able to achieve that container's width which I set, the padding and the margins, because there was no margin from top, so top and bottom, so you don't see, but you can change these values as well later, although you won't need it because all of these are going to turn it into boxes, and then you won't need top and bottom margin as such. Okay, so this is my container, which is the main container. Okay, now my major things, which were like the universal things or which apply to the entire HTML page, have been set. Okay, and now is the time when I should actually start working from top to bottom, which means first I should work on the navigation part, which has a logo and the list items, and then I will work on these parts. So for my navigation bar, I am going to work on the navbar class. Okay, I'll show you where is my navbar class. It's here. So this class, which is the navigation bar, I'm going to work on this part. Okay, and now in the navigation bar, if I show you the actual website, it has a background color of this light purple kind of a thing. So first thing that I will do for my navigation bar is that I will set a background color. Okay, you can use any hex value. I do have it noted somewhere, so I'm just going to say this, use the same color basically. So that's my light purple or any other color that you want. So that's my background color. If you notice, the text color in my navigation bar is white, so I'm just going to say white. Okay, now my navigation bar here also has a little height to it. Okay, height is important because then if you have a height, you will be able to justify items, or align the items in the center of that height, as you can see here. So it's necessary that I should have some height associated with my navigation bar. So the one that I used in my website, I think, was 50 or maybe 60 pixels, which is an okay height. Okay, so if you save it and go back here to the website that we are building right now and refresh this, so you will see that I've got a 60 pixel background color purple kind of a navigation bar. Of course, these things, logo and all, I'm now going to style. Okay, so I have achieved that using navbar. Okay, now what I need to do here is, now if I want my logo and my list items to be aligned in a sort of a row, I need to set the flex direction, or maybe use a flex container here. Okay, so if I go to my coding back in here, so inside my navbar I have a container here. Okay, so if I set this container as a flex, I will be able to achieve what I was talking about, right? So for my navbar class and my container, which is inside my navbar, I am going to set the display as flex. Okay, if you remember, if we do not set a flex direction as row, it is by default considered as a row only. Okay, so I'm not going to put the flex direction because by default it is this. Okay, now let me save it and show you what happens there. So you'll have something like that. Okay, you have a logo and it is definitely in a row flex, and these items are here, but then I need to have some space in between these items, these two items. Okay, so for having that space, what we basically do is use a justify content property, and it can have three values like space between, space around, space evenly. You can use any one, but I think the most suitable one in this case is space between, because we want spaces in between those items. Okay, And if you saw here in my actual website, these items are aligned in the middle of the row. So for that, I am going to use the align items property, and I'm going to say it's center. Okay, and I think that's it. Let me check if this is what I wanted. So yeah, I think everything looks okay, but then these items are of course going sort of, you know, outside, and I need to align them properly, and I will work on that separately. Okay. um, Now container is done. I want to now start working on this logo, which I want to be of a bigger size. And if you look at my original website, it's a bigger size, and it is in bold. So what I will do here is, in my coding here, if you see, there is a class called logo which takes care of this logo. Okay, so inside my nav bar and my logo, what the effect, the CSS effect that I want is that I want a bigger font size. So you can actually give a particular value as a font size, or just say extra large, which is going to give you that effect. And font weight, I want it to be bold, so bold here. Okay, let's go back and check. So yeah, this is fine. Okay, and then I don't want these bullet points out here, so we do have something called UL, which is unordered list, and you can say that list style type, you don't want anything. It will show you different options like disk and all of that, but you don't want these bulleted things here, so just say none, and I hope this will take care of it. Okay, so this is being done right now. Of course, if you see here, everything is looking okay, but I want these things also to be available in a row, not like a column. Okay, so what the best approach over here is to also turn these items as a flex items. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is, in the navigation bar, okay, with the unordered list. Okay, and this is something that is new to you, which means that you don't just, you know, you cannot just have a container as a flex, but even one single item inside a container can also act like a flex. Okay, so because I want unordered list in a row, I am turning the UL as a flex display. Okay, so this is done, right? And align items, I want some space in between those home, contact, and all of that. So space between, right? So now my UL has also turned into a flex. So if I refresh it, you'll be able to see this. Okay. Now this is again not really the way I want it. I want some more styling to be done here. So what I'm going to do here is, I'm now going to work on the list items. Okay. So in the nav bar, in the UL, the list items need to have some styling. So first of all, I want the font weight to be bold. Okay, and I want some margin also to be there. So left margin basically needs to be something like 10 or 20, and of course you can change it if let's see how it appears, otherwise we will change this value. So yeah, this is how it is appearing, bold and everything, right? But the links over here are still not the way I want, because in my actual website, the links are white in color. They don't have a text like underline or something, and they have a hovering effect out here. Okay, so I want the similar thing here. So what I'm going to do out here is something like work on the links now. Okay, so inside my nav bar, the anchor tags, which are the links out here, I want the color, or the text color basically, as white. Okay, text decoration as none, which means no underline or nothing. Okay, and font size also, I want something bigger. You can use extra large, otherwise provide a value like 20 pixel, 18 pixel or something. Okay, and I also wanted a hovering effect. So nav bar A is for anchor, and hover is when you hover your mouse out there. The color that you want is something like a light blue kind of a color. So this is my hovering effect. Okay, so let me save it. And okay, this is fine, but the only thing that I don't like out here is that they are not in the middle out here. Okay, all of these are aligned a little to the top, so you can adjust the margins, or otherwise what you can do is, I think, in the nav bar container here, if you say height is 100%, which means the entire height of it to be utilized, and align items according to this height. Okay, if you do this, I think it's going to fix the problem. Yeah, so the entire height of the flex container, which was I think 60 pixel, which we had set, needs to be utilized, and according to this height of the container, the items should be aligned in the center and justified as space between. Okay, so this was important, which we had missed, and we've been able to achieve the navigation bar at least. Okay, now is the time when we should work on the header part, which has the heading, the text, and the image. Okay, so I'm now going to work on the header, and for that header, if you see here, I have another class called header, which has a container in here, right? So I'm now going to work on the header here. Okay, so that's my header class, and for my header, the only thing that I want basically is a background color, which you would have seen in my web page. So I do have the hash value for that, so I'm going to use the same color. So it was something like a dark purple. Okay, yeah, this one. And the text color that I want in my header items, the text color is just white. Okay, so if I save it and show you this, the color that you see right now is the color of the body that we had set, but now you will be able to see another color which is only for the header. Okay, so this is for my header paragraph and all of that, and I will style it now. Okay, so that's for my header, and now what I want to do is to work on my header class, but only on the h1 of my header. So if you notice there, the font size was quite bigger. You can use the extra large font, or other units are also available like REM and things, but you can use any font size, a bigger one, whichever you feel it's appropriate. Font weight, that was in bold. Okay, and here line height I will set as 1.2. Even if you don't do it, I don't think it's going to be a big deal. Okay, so line height is basically this height of a particular text item. Sometimes it's important to introduce the spacing out here, okay, so that it is not really touching the box. Okay, so that's for my heading, right? Now for my image, I want, let's say it's too big actually, so I'm going to resize it. Okay, so my image, I don't want it to be too big, so I'm just going to set the maximum width as 400 or 500 pixel, which should be okay. If I go here, it should resize the image to the size you want, and you can in fact resize it even smaller than this if it doesn't really appeal to you. Okay, so here now image is done, h1 is done. Now I want to work on my header container, because the container over here needs to have a flex layout so that I can have these things aligned side by side in a row format. Okay, so for my header container, and please see I'm using dots here because these are classes being declared there, so every class that you style needs to start with a dot. So display is flex. Okay, the items, just like I had done the previous one, the items need to be aligned in center. Okay, center of the flex, and the content should be justified as a space. Okay, space, evenly spaced between. You can use and see what effects do they have and what applies to you here. Okay, so let's see the header container now. So the purple colored container, as you will be able to see, okay, Right, this should have changed, but maybe I did not save it. Set some margins out here, and that's the next thing that I'm going to work on. So I'm still going to work on the header container. Okay, so in the container we have the divs, and there I want the margin as 10 pixel because there are two items. One is left and right one is the image, so I want to have them separated at a distance of a 10 pixels. So if you do this and go and refresh your page, you should be able to see that they are now separated by 10 pixel. It's a little slow, but you can clearly see that it has been achieved using um, the margin. Okay, looks quite similar to this. Of course, this part where the image is not really touching the container, we can fix all of that later. Right now I want to work on these three boxes out here, which is a boxes class, and it's a different section in my web page. I want to turn them into boxes, three boxes aligned in a row. So the next thing that I'm going to work on is what was the name of that class? It was boxes class. That's the section, and then there is a container and three boxes inside it. Okay, so over here in my style tag just below the header, I am now going to work on the boxes container. So boxes, the container. Okay, it needs to have a flex display because all those boxes need to be aligned in a row, right? I want them to have space between them, so justify content is going to be space evenly or space between, whichever suits you, right? So that's for my boxes container. Let me see if that has applied or not. Okay, so there are three boxes out here, but of course these are not the way I want. So now I'm going to work on each individual box. Okay, and what I'm setting over here is the width of the box. Okay, you can call it width, or sometimes you also call it as the flex basis property, which means the start out width. So when the boxes start initially, what is the width that they are going to possess, right? So flex basis or width is one and the same thing. There's not much of a difference. Background color, I want it to be something purple, which I think I had used earlier, which was this color I had used. The text color of my boxes needs to be white. Okay, I need to have some rounded edges also. Okay, let me just see here how this is appearing. Okay, okay, here. Okay, so here I also need to have some rounded edges. Okay, and for that I am going to use the border radius property. Okay. If you worked in Scratch or Tinkercad and you've used these boxes out there, you know that the radius property is used for rounding the edges. Okay, now the margins that I want in between the boxes is 10 pixel top bottom and around 15 pixel from left and right to have the spaces. Padding is, as you know, is the distance between the text and the border box. So 10 pixel top bottom and maybe same 15 pixel left and right padding is enough. Okay, I save it and I go back and see if this is happening or not. Okay, so I've got that. Okay, now over here I think everything looks fine. The only thing that doesn't really look okay to me is that the margin here, which is the left margin for my H2 in the boxes, is not really proper. Okay, and even text align, I think it should be better if I align the text inside the boxes to be in center, or if you can even skip it if you don't want. Okay, so here for my okay, let me go back here. So for my box H2 inside my box, I want some margin from the left side. So left margin needs to be 20 pixel. Okay, and for my box P, the paragraphs which exist, I want some alignment of the text. You can even justify it, or I think center would be better. Okay, so I've got this and I go here and see, yeah, this is justified properly. Okay, the margins are there, the padding, everything is working fine. If I resize my web page just to see the responsiveness of it, you see this is definitely not responsive. Okay, the image should have stacked below and the boxes should also have stacked, so I need to do something for my responsiveness, and that is the easiest part out here. Okay, you do that in the style tag, and that's called a media query. So you do it something like @media. Okay, and then in the bracket you specify the condition for the query to run basically. Okay, so here the condition is nothing, but when I say that the maximum width of the screen is something like 768 pixel or below, that is when my media query is going to execute. Okay, so all that I'm going to write inside these curly brackets will only happen when this condition will be true. Okay, so what I want is that the header container, this is my header container, this should have a flex display of column whenever I resize the browser window, because I want the image to go below my this section. Okay, so inside the media query I am saying that my header container, okay, should have a flex direction set as column whenever I resize it. Okay, I need to also work out on the padding, because otherwise everything is going to be very clogged. So 20 pixel padding, and the alignment of the text should also happen to be in center, so that for the readability. Okay, this is what should happen for my header container. And the container which is in my boxes, okay, that also needs to have a flex direction. You can set it as column, or otherwise there is something called block display. Okay, so instead of having a flex display, it should have a block display. This is much easier. Okay, so everything is gonna get stacked in the column format, and that's it. These are the only two things to work on the responsiveness. So if I just refresh it and resize the browser window to show you, let me resize it. Yeah, you can clearly see now. The window is resized and you can clearly see the responsiveness of the website. Image is going there because the flex direction for the header container is now column, and for the boxes container is now the block display instead of the flex display. So with all of this, you'll be able to achieve for a fully functional, just a responsive web page. You can have more web pages added and attached with the links if you want to make it a proper responsive website. And same thing, same media queries you will have to use for each of the pages to make this work.